Hello, everyone. I'm Jenny Ray LaRue, the Managing Director of Management Consulted, and I'm really excited today to welcome you to our DEI recruiting panel. We are really excited that you're here, and I'm excited to welcome and moderate our distinguished panelists today. We have an amazing panel of folks that represent really different backgrounds, different experiences, and also different firm cultures. So they're going to get a chance to share some of that in depth with you today. We are looking forward to diving into some of the conversations, but as everyone is joining in the wait room, just a few kind of key notes. We've got 5 panelists today. If you would like to get connected with the organizations, we have Accenture, eBay, PwC, Hershey, and Serco, and we've pre-connected you so you can scan the QR code on this page for opportunities with each one of these organizations. We will put this QR code up later in the presentation as well, so that you'll have access to that. In addition, just at Management Consulted, we're really excited to welcome you to the call. I wanted to introduce my colleague, Eden, who's on the call with you today. So I know that many of you are here to talk to the folks from Accenture, eBay, PwC, Hershey, and Serco, and they have representatives in the chat. So as we're going through and you want to engage with them, you can feel free to do that. But we also have somebody from Management Consulted. So Eden, if you want to say a quick hi, that would be great.
Hi everyone, we are so excited that you're here today. If you are looking for assistance on the recruitment process, I would love to help. I'm going to place a link in the chat. And so, yeah, back to you, Jenny Ray.
Amazing. Thank you, Eden. In addition, Japheth, I think you had one more slide, right? After this one. Perfect. So today's agenda, we're just going to do, to kick us off, panelist intros and a response to an opening question. You'll get to hear from all of our panelists and get to know them. Then we have some moderator curated questions. These come from the general conversations that we've had over the last 12 months and including at some of the diversity conferences that we've been a part of throughout this last recruitment cycle. Then you pre-selected some questions. You sent us your questions in your registration process. Thank you for doing that. Those selected audience questions we're going to share in a Q&A. And then finally, at the end, we'll do a closing question. Just a note to everyone, just from an etiquette perspective, you can do all that you want in the chat. We would love for you to connect with both our team and the firms, but please do stay on mute for the duration of the session. We are streaming and recording this for afterwards. So if you feel like you missed something and you want to go back, we do have a record of it as well. And with that, I think, Japheth, we can go ahead and kick off. So panelists, really excited again to welcome you to the DEI recruiting panel. Today, we are looking forward to hearing from your firms about the experiences that you have crafted for folks from all kinds of different backgrounds. So what I'll do is I'll just call on your firm name and I'll ask you to answer an opening question, which is just to introduce yourself. Please share a little bit about your organization and also share how DEI has impacted your organization over the last 3 years. With that, I'll turn it over first to Accenture.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Miriam Kachardi. I am here to represent Accenture, specifically Accenture Strategy and our recruiting efforts for post-MBA role candidates. We bring candidates to Accenture Strategy Consultant Development Program, or ASCDP. If I mention that later on, you'll know what I'm talking about. Many of you might be familiar with the name Accenture. We have over 730,000 employees globally. Within strategy specifically, we have about 5,000 employees, just to give you an idea of the size. So in terms of DEI, it has definitely been a major focus area for Accenture. You may be aware, in the last few years, our CEO, Julie Sweet, made the public commitment to reach gender equality in our workforce, to reach 50-50% gender parity in our workforce by 2025. She actually also announced additional goals to increase representation within the African American or Black people population and also Hispanic American and Latinx population, also within Accenture. So of course, with that, it has definitely increased the focus in our recruiting efforts to bring in a diverse pipeline of candidates and also increase our efforts to make sure that the inclusion part of DEI is emphasized within Accenture. So I won't go on too much about that. We can discuss more in the panel, but specifically for this strategy senior consultant role we recruit for, we look for additional types of diversity, including various backgrounds and experiences, folks who can bring a diverse perspective and mindset as we serve our clients within Accenture strategy.
Amazing. We are so excited to have you. Thanks, Miriam, for joining. And we have a lot of great questions for you. So buckle up. Awesome. Next, we're going to go to eBay. Look forward to hearing from you. Oh, Cindy here. I'm going to, there you go.
I'm going to unmute myself. So hi, everyone. Jenny Ray, thank you for the baton pass. Excited to be part of this panel with y'all. I'm Cindy Loggins. I'm from eBay. I lead the Global Emerging Talent team, but more importantly, I'm a mom to two phenomenal young women. One is 8 and one is 13. So for those that are on the panel that are going through that, please help me. But that to me is my most important job. The other side hustle is I get to work with awesome individuals at eBay, leading the global emerging talent function. So that's anything early career talent, interns, recent college graduates, in a multitude of functions. So engineering, finance, marketing, strategy, MBAs roles as well, data science, and corporate and business development. And absolutely love it. In terms of how DE&I has impacted our org, for those of you that don't know eBay, first of all, you should. So you got a little homework there. But being an e-commerce platform, think about the marketplace that we get to interact with day in and day out and how diverse that marketplace is. Not just the people, but the items, the way people sell things, buy things, etc. You know, our goal has always been to mimic that. If that is our marketplace, our internal forces should mimic that. So we partner similarly to Miriam. We partner with our DE&I organizations or communities of inclusion or ERG groups, employee resource groups, to make sure that they are connected in everything that we do recruiting wise, but also more importantly, the inclusion piece once our candidates decide to join eBay. So Jenny Ray, I'll pass it back to you.
Amazing. Cindy, we're really looking forward to getting to know eBay with an eBay. I think that's kind of one of the goals, because eBay feels like such a large organization. Hopefully you can help us niche down a little bit today. So we're excited to have you. Hershey, welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi, thank you. Excited to be here. My name is Namble Coleman, and I'm actually a manager of marketing at the Hershey Company. And Hershey is a company that's been around for over 130 years. And we are all about creating more moments of goodness. And so hopefully you have had one of those moments of goodness with one of our products, whether it be over a campfire, roasting our Hershey's milk chocolate bar to make s'mores, or we've got the holiday season coming up and using our Hershey's Kisses to make a peanut butter blossom cookie. And even with one of our most recent acquisitions, Skinny Pop, you know, having some screen time and enjoying some delicious Skinny Pop popcorn. And so, you know, really excited to represent the team today. I actually do lead our marketing, diversity, equity, inclusion recruiting team. So specifically looking for candidates, MBA candidates for our full-time associate brand management position. We also have internships for MBAs as well that are in between their first and second years. And so those are the programs that I recruit for within marketing. And for the opening question, just around how our organization has been impacted through DEI over the last few years. In particular, we've launched a program called the Pathways Project, and that specifically was created in 2020. And it's a 5-year inclusion strategy program that's really multifaceted and really allows us to hit our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. The 3 pieces of that project include more pathways to join, so opening up the ways and our strategies and our approaches for bringing in more diverse talent and viewpoints to really bring the talent that represents the consumers that we serve each day. The second component is pathways to reach out. So continuing to engage with different communities, Black and Brown communities, through our Milton Hershey School initiative, and other partnerships, even internal with the group, as others have mentioned, with our employee resource groups, which we call our business resource groups. And then lastly, more pathways to grow. So really differentially investing in our candidates from underrepresented backgrounds through commercial leadership training. So that is a 5-year inclusion program that we've launched over the last few years, specifically for our DEI commitments. But really happy to be here and speak more with all of you today.
I love that. And Namble, we're really excited to have you. And personally, I grew up just about 20 minutes away from Hershey in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So we're excited to hear a little bit about just, not just the opportunities and the strategies, but your culture. I know for me, that one of the highlights of my whole year was the day that we got to go to Hershey Park and smell the chocolate in the air. So I'm excited to have you here today. Thanks again for joining. Wonderful. PwC.
Thanks, Jenny Ray. Bhushan Sethi, partner based in New York. By day, I'm a strategy practitioner. I help companies with business and organization transformation. And other than that, I do fun things like I teach at NYU Stern, a strategy consulting class. So I'm kind of exposed to kind of a pipeline of talent there. It's really exciting to kind of be around, young people and develop young people. So kind of excited to share today. In terms of kind of what our organization's done that, is different and kind of makes me feel very proud. One thing we did about 10 years ago is we set up a convening forum called CEO for Action, where we worked with a bunch of different CEOs within our industry and all different sectors to kind of bring them together in the US to say, we've got to collectively share pipelines. We've got to collectively understand the systemic issues that we've got to, resolve in this country around access, around opportunity, around bringing people in, around kind of, not losing people at certain levels for life events, etc. So it's really the ability for us to convene. And something we've done in the last few years is taken that forward to actually look at policy, to look at systemic issues, whether it's law enforcement, the judicial system, etc. So there are a few things that make me very proud in terms of our ability to work with others to try and break the back of this issue, which again, it's really slow progress, unfortunately, but we're all trying to do our bit as well as run our businesses.
I love that. Bhushan, we're excited to have you. And I have to say, it's kind of cheating that you're a professor at NYU Stern. You get access to all that great talent. They get to know you too. So I like that. It's legal cheating, right? That's the best kind. So welcome. We're excited to hear more from you today. And last but not least, Serco, welcome to the panel.
Hi, yes, thanks for having me. My name is Amy Doherty, and I lead up the talent acquisition efforts for Serco North America. We're a division of Serco, which is based in the UK, and our division is located in Herndon, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. As you would imagine, we are a federal government contractor, and based on our location, there's a lot in this area. And we provide a variety of different services to the US and Canadian governments, both at the federal level and sometimes at the provincial and state level as well. Our division is approximately 9,300 employees, and overall Serco has about 50,000 employees worldwide. DE&I is important. As a federal contractor, we're not only governed by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, but a component of the EEOC is only applicable to federal government contracting companies, and that is the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, or OFCCP, which is much easier to say. So we have a lot of governance around our DE&I strategies that's very detailed as a federal contractor in comparison to private or privately sectored companies. Diversity compliance is important to our industry in that regard, but it's also important to us as a company. Having an inclusive workforce really reflects our corporate culture. It reflects our values, which are trust, care, innovation, and pride. And we hold each other really accountable for creating a company that we're all proud to work at. When I started at Serco just under 5 years ago, we did not have a DE&I recruiting program. So over the course of these years, we've been developing, maturing, and implementing consistently over time. And John Lees, who is our senior manager of outreach and sourcing, who also works with our lead diversity recruiter, started with us about a year and a half ago, and it helped me to enhance that program and has done a lot of amazing, great work. So he's available to be in the chat with you all as well. Veterans are a large focus of ours, as a lot of our positions are cleared. We're working a lot with the Department of Defense and other similar types of federal agencies. And so we're very veteran focused, and John is actually a 30-year Navy veteran himself. So he's really helped us in those areas as well. Thank you.
Amazing, Amy. I didn't think that after Miriam led with the ASCDP, which I think we need like an acronym dictionary. I didn't think that anybody could out acronym her, but then here you are. I just underestimated anybody who works with the federal government, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything an acronym. So
now it's a throwdown, right? So everybody's got 5 letters, acronyms that they've inserted. So now we're going to need 6 from somebody. That's one of the challenges in today's conversation. So thank you for helping us interpret what the acronyms mean. I think that was really gracious of you. Well, I'm going to dive now into some of the specific questions that we've created from the moderator side. And these are based on the broader conversations that we have. So the first one is for both Hershey and Accenture. So Hershey, Namble, I'll ask you to go first. It's basically, can you share one example of how your org is sourcing candidates from underrepresented communities? You explained in your introduction that that's one of the 3 key tenets of your plan. So if you could just share specifically how you're doing that now, we would love to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah. Under the Pathways to Join component of our Pathways project, we do source from our diversity conferences. So I, in particular, have gone out to these conferences for our marketing roles. We've gone to the National Black MBA Association. We've also gone to the Consortium for Graduate Management to recruit tech talent from diverse backgrounds. In addition to that, we take that one step further across all of our positions, not just within the marketing organization, enterprise-wide. We ensure that we have 50% diverse slates in terms of the candidates that we are interviewing, in addition to the interviewing teams themselves, to make sure that we're having, eliminating biases where they may exist, and then making sure that we're bringing in a representative group. So diversity conferences is a huge place where we go to source underrepresented communities. So.
I love that. Thank you. And can you just share at the outset of the call today just a little bit about the program that you talked about hiring into specifically? What are people coming in for just the internship? If they graduate from the internship, what do they do afterwards? Can you just talk a little bit about what kind of skills and experience you're looking for this?
Sure. Yeah. So this, again, is for our associate brand manager position, and that's your entryway into working in brand management at the Hershey company. We are open to transferable skills. So we have marketers that were former teachers, a large veteran community, people that work in healthcare. So diverse perspective and transferable skills really centered around data analytics. So any work that you've done to analyze data, synthesize to strategies and execution, huge transferable skill. But then also cross-functional leadership. So you come in and you were the captain of your brand, and within a few months of joining, you were leading teams to put product out into the marketplace. And so being able to work cross-functionally with sales and finance, supply chain operations, any experience that you've had with cross-functional leadership is definitely what we're looking for in our brand management position. And yes, our internship program is a full path to our full-time ABM position. But you also could come in if you did not have an internship with the Hershey company. You can come in to be a full-time associate.
That's awesome. A lot of the people that come into our audience in the first place are looking initially at consulting jobs, and then they find opportunities like this that really use exactly the same skills, right? The data analytics, the interpretation for action, leadership, communication, everything else. So thanks for helping explain that a little bit more. Awesome. Accenture, Miriam, can you share a little bit about one example of how your org is sourcing candidates from diverse communities?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, similar to Hershey, we do attend multiple conferences and partnerships, including National Black, including Consortium, including Jumpstart, Forte. Those are kind of the top ones that we attend. There are others that we also attend to attract other diverse talent, like Ramba for our LGBTQ+ population. MBA Vets is another one. So we definitely have representation across these MBA targeted partnerships that we attend. In addition to that, of course, with our on-campus efforts, we partner with the different student clubs to host a variety of different events. So be it, coffee chats, lunch and learns, case workshops, anything really that will help us get to know the candidates, but also help them get to know us, and for us to also prepare them for the interview process.
That's fantastic. And then because you're doing so much with students, I know that one question that's going to come up throughout the course of today is, can you talk a little bit about international students and how that factors into your overall view on DE&I? Are they included in those populations? Do you hire international students? If so, how? What kind specifically? I think that would be a helpful.
Sure. Unfortunately, we're not able to consider candidates that don't have U.S. work authorization. It's part of the application process. We require all candidates to have valid U.S. work authorization and require no sponsorship at the time of application or in the future when they submit the application. So that's kind of a clear-cut line for our U.S.-based ASCDP role, post-MBA hiring. We also do include in North America. We hire into the same program in Canada. And for those joining our Canada offices, they have to have valid authorization to work in Canada.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's super helpful. Wonderful. Next question is, what is one diversity best practice you've identified through either success or misadventures? So PwC, I'd love for you to take this one first, Bhushan.
I mean, one success piece around kind of diversity in kind of the hiring, the onboarding process is really be clear when we're sourcing candidates that they understand the roles they're coming into. So on the consulting side and kind of what I do, and again, it's going to be the same for a lot of our businesses, our clients are looking to transform their business. They're looking to do more with less. So yes, part of that's going to be how do they take out cost responsibly? Part of that's going to be how do they automate and take the benefits of things like AI? But part of it's also how they're going to bring their people along. So the more that we're actually able to kind of bring people in that say, we have life experiences, we have other experiences, we have academic experiences that can meet those business problems, it's really addressing that. And so, yes, we source kind of all the different colleges. There's a big focus on historical Black universities and Latino institutions. But it's really important for us to kind of set expectations with all of our candidates, diverse and otherwise, around kind of the expectations of the work that they're focused on. And my advice to anyone who's kind of applying to any of our kind of areas is really do your homework around kind of sitting the other side of the table to say, bring all of your diverse experiences from all of your life around some of those business problems that I was addressing. I'm sure it would be the same at, in any other consulting firm or even internal consulting.
That's super helpful. In addition, I kind of just to push on this, were any of these lessons, the ones that you just mentioned, or are there other ones that were learned through misadventures, right? Are there any things that people should potentially, if they're thinking about moving into a culture that's less advanced than PwC, anything that they should watch out for that maybe other people would be doing, anything that you can think of that you tried that didn't really work, or that wasn't?
I think the general point around the misadventure is just us being adaptive and agile, us as individuals. If you come into if you're used to a lot of hierarchy and you come to an organization that's very flat and very entrepreneurial and self-starter, it's really understanding kind of how you're going to build those skills. If you come to an organization where communication and presence in person is really important in a way that work gets done, that's not right or wrong. It's just the way that work gets done in an organization. Be aware of that and kind of, work on kind of whatever it is that you need to work on. If you are not comfortable being vulnerable and saying, I need help, it's those types of things. So I think that we could all kind of benefit from understanding that and being in a trusted environment and getting feedback. But there's some of the areas where, again, there's been a mismatch around kind of the work and the expectations.
That's helpful. Thank you. Serco, what about you?
Yes. Most of the avenues that we've really uncovered that work well for us when we're looking at diversity recruiting is just really successful partnerships with different nonprofit organizations, professional organizations, schools, of course, being part of that as well. And any programs that they have where, especially where diversity is concerned. Again, we do a lot with veteran organizations, but we represent every diversity group in our different efforts. And so that's something I always really encourage people of diverse groups to belong to those organizations, or if there's Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or any of those types of resources, not just for us to be able to then find people to hire, but that's a place where candidates and people looking for positions can also go. We're all very motivated to, as everybody's been talking on this panel, companies are motivated to have diverse employee populations. And so the easier it is for us to be able to advertise our jobs or connect with people of diversity, we want to encourage that just as much as people want to be found and be considered for opportunities. So, looking for those channels that can help you make those connections with companies will allow us to help us connect with you as well. Social media in general can be amazing in that way too, as well as those professional organizations. There's engineering professional organizations, contracts, finance, you name it, right? There's one for HR. So those are always a great place to be a part of and connect. And that will help with your networking too, which is always very important. In a way, we find a lot of our candidates through referrals or, those types of means as well.
Amy, if you have some of those recommended organizations, maybe after the call, we can post a few of those, because I think that could be a great and valuable resource, places where you are currently finding
Absolutely.
folks, because maybe they can go and hang out at those watering holes a little bit more than they are currently. Sure. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. So the last question, and then I'll open it up to the panelists if there's something that I asked that you wanted to answer that wasn't in your firm's rotation. The last question is, can you share your best piece of advice for candidates from underrepresented backgrounds? How can they stand out in the hiring process? eBay, to you first.
Unmute myself. Lesson learned for today.
You got this, Cindy.
I got this. Jenny, my answer is going to be a little bit different. And from the perspective, I think this is all candidates. It's not just underrepresented candidates, because for us, it's looking at the best, the brightest, the most motivated, right? Person that is interested in the opportunities that we have open at eBay. I'm assuming potentially some of my peers as well. So for me, and I think Bhushan touched on this a little bit, is know the company that you want to apply to. Like, you have a lot of companies at your fingertips. The worst thing you can do is to send a note on LinkedIn or through the application process or in a cover letter and say to me, right, I'm really interested in an opportunity at PwC. What? Right? Like, it stops all of us in our tracks. And so I do think that every one of us on this panel have something different that we're solving in the world that we live in. Our companies are trying to do the best at what we do. For eBay and the e-commerce marketplace, we have our competitors. We are also very different. We're very proud of who we are and the population that we serve and allow opportunities for. But really look at what are the roles that they have open, what are they looking for, and do your best to find the skill sets to accomplish that. So as an example, software engineering roles at eBay, intern or full-time, at the early career level, we really hone in on core computer science fundamentals. We also don't hire as much as perhaps some of my peers on this panel. So we're going to be really focused on who meets the technical components of showing us that you are on your way to mastery of computer science fundamentals, right? And then from there, brush up on your interview skills. Know that most companies are going to look at core competency. So if it's software engineering, it's engineering competency, but then we're going to have behavioral interviewing in there. See if you can find what their core values are, what their DNA is. They're probably going to incorporate some sort of thing. If you see things on eBay that are all about teamwork and working, they're probably going to ask you about what has been your experience working on teams? So do a little bit of research. All of us are a little bit different, but for really good reasons that ultimately make each of us successful as companies. So I would say underrepresented or not, those are important things that I would recommend.
Fantastic. Cindy, that's super helpful. You mentioned that you probably are hiring a narrow group of people. Do you want to just take a second to explain a few of the different roles that are key to your hiring purview?
Absolutely. So overall, we're about, I want to say 12,000 people globally, full-time. And so in the US is the bulk of where we do most of our hiring. But then again, it's about 6,000 people. And then everything else is spread out across the rest of the globe. The majority of what our team hires are engineers, but don't fret, non-engineering folks. We do have non-engineering roles as well. But on the engineering side, if you are machine learning, NLP, a PhD person, I know we just said a lot of acronyms there, applied researcher roles, data science roles, software engineering roles, technical product manager roles that typically are for, a lot of them are for MBAs that have grown up in the world and sort of the technical arm, but then want to balance their skills with knowledge of business. And then we have financial analyst roles. Sometimes we've got marketing roles. We also have strategy, biz op development roles as well. So we kind of run the gamut there, but on a hiring year to year, we probably hire 100 to 150 interns every year, which we do similar to my peers, convert them or use it as a pipeline to full-time hiring. And then our recent grads or our new grads or those that are just graduating from colleges or universities for the US and Canada, we're probably, it fluctuates, but I would say probably 80 to 100 on any given year.
Super helpful. Thank you. I think that will answer questions that were probably lurking in some people's minds. Well done on the acronyms as well. I feel like you're really participating on an equal playing field. Great. So what I'd love to do now is just open it up to any of the panelists. If there's a question that I asked that was not directed to you, an example of how your org is sourcing candidates from underrepresented communities, one diversity best practice you've identified, or your best piece of advice from candidates from underrepresented backgrounds before we move on to the audience sourced questions. Does anyone want to weigh in on any of those?
I can jump in on the last question around advice and 100% agree with what Cindy mentioned around getting to know the organization, understanding their culture. For Hershey, we have the Hershey behaviors around taking action and owning it. So as you think about going into an interview setting, really help to paint the picture for the interviewer to show how your past experiences align with what you've understood from the job description. So, continuing down, we talked about transferable skills earlier. Another one could be influence without authority. If you come into an entry-level role and still need to influence your peers where you may not be their manager. And so just taking examples from your previous experiences where you've been able to successfully influence a group and demonstrate that during your interview process. The last one specifically for underrepresented groups, it would just be to mention on your resume and include your professional affinity group association. So if you are a part of a National Black MBA Association or another group, affinity group, put that on your resume so that we can look and see that as well. Even if you're still currently in school and there's a club that you may have led as well from an affinity group perspective, really looking to see demonstrated commitment to diversity, equity, inclusion in your previous experiences, as that's a core value of us when you come over to work for our organization. So just two best practices wanted to highlight there.
Thank you, Noli. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else?
If I can piggyback on that, very similar advice, I think, in terms of making sure your resume shows what affiliations you are a part of course, clear description of your background. One other thing, and I might put on I used to work in career management, so I'll put on that hat for just a moment. I think the student population here sees a lot of interaction from companies. You are sought after through different events, through different conferences. I think the best thing is, stay true to who you are, to what you want to do. Try to think and really focus on the culture of the companies that you're interacting with. Talk to them about what types of ERGs that they have. How are some ways that they have felt included and supported once they've joined those organizations? I think that really helps, helps you figure out where you want to be next, because it can be a lot and it can be a little bit overwhelming. I'll share from our side, from the Accenture side, we value, in terms of the interview performance, we value behavioral performance equally to a case performance, which, you know, those who join consulting type of roles, you have to do a case. We weigh them equally. We look at your fit into the organization, weigh that equally as much as you can do a business case, solve a business case. So think about that. Think for us, for example, you know, think if Accenture is the right fit for you, and that will actually show during the interview, because we look at that very closely to make sure that you're the right fit.
Thank you. Great. Final call on those questions. Anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just add a couple of kind of logistical things that may seem simple, but actually would have quite a bit of an impact. I know everyone's very daunted about writing a resume. I've been doing recruiting for 25 years. I don't like writing my resume either, right? It's hard to talk about yourself, even if you're in the biz, right? As we are. The best advice I have found to give to people is a reminder that there is no plagiarism when it comes to resume writing. Go out, find job descriptions for the job you want, find people with resumes that have the job you want, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, right? And take that pressure off of yourself. Indeed is a great place to do that. You can search for both jobs and resumes, even if you're not a recruiter, so for free. So I highly suggest doing that. I have found things doing that. They're like, oh, I forgot to put that on my resume too. And that's a part of my job that I should have on there. It's a good check and balance. And send thank you emails. You want to talk about standing out. At least 90% of the candidates that we interview do not send a thank you email afterwards. It can be super short.
Really?
Yes. Super short and simple. Thank them for their time, for explaining the opportunity. You're very interested. Look forward to next steps. That's all you have to say. And you will come across as so professional, and really kind of that will really elevate yourself amongst the other candidates. So you would think it would be common, and it is absolutely not. So still a couple of small pieces of advice.
Thank you.
Jenny said a couple of things, Jenny, right, that haven't been said.
Please.
Leverage your relationships. It surprises me when people kind of know people through kind of second degree connections, through a family member or someone who's kind of, you know, an intern at a company, and they're not leveraging them just for informational purposes, just so you understand about the company that you're applying for. It's like, you can read about the culture, but to talk to people who work or, you know, have kind of firsthand knowledge of a company is different. And the second one is social profile. Like having a social profile that you're thoughtful around the areas that you want to focus on. If you want to learn more about AI, there's so much out there. Have a point of view on it and read stuff and forward stuff and be thoughtful about it. Everyone can have a point of view on the relevant topics. You don't have to be a 25-year veteran in the industry. Some of these things are so new. We're all figuring it out together. And then the third thing is, don't be too choosy. I know everyone's anxious right now. Obviously, the employment market is softening. We all see the economic data. But the best thing to do is to say yes and don't seek the perfect role, whatever role it is, whether it's these firms or others. Getting into the job market for your first job is the most important thing you can do. You can learn so much and you can figure everything out. I'm sure every one of us has an interesting path that was not linear. And so I do think that just saying yes and not seeking the perfect role, and being a little bit resilient is going to be important as well.
Bhushan, I love that. Can I ask you a follow-up question on that? Because as somebody who spends their time with millions of job seekers a year, they're like, how do we figure out at PwC what PwC piece is the one that we would like to work at? So since you're here from PwC and you're an insider there, how would you do it as an outsider? How would you actually figure out what X at PwC is versus Y at PwC?
Yep. I'd start with kind of, what it is that I want to do. If I want to solve problems that are financial, if I want to help in due diligence on M&A, if I want to go long on technology and build out technology products. So I do think it starts with kind of, what is it that you want to do that kind of, it is consistent with that firm's business model. And then start to kind of leverage your network. because I'm pretty sure that you'll know someone who's worked in, whether it's PwC, whether it's other firms represented here, you'll know someone, and obviously read the research that they've done, talk to some people, and then try, and if you through the application process and you're in the interview stage, kind of leverage that, and talk about some of your relevant experiences. And if you're not, reach out and try and have an informational interview. Even if the firm's not hiring or if it's not a fit for right now, you'll learn so much in informational interviews that make you better for other firms and other kind of things you want to do.
Thanks, that's helpful. Appreciate it. Wonderful. Let me now move to the audience questions. I have one for each of you for this one. So the first one is for PwC. So Bhushan, I'll just keep you up here. How do you recommend staff members overcome fear and imposter syndrome when leading teams and in meetings as someone from a minority group?
Surround yourself with people that you trust and can be vulnerable, and that you seek feedback. Sometimes they're going to be on your teams. Sometimes they're going to be people on other teams. Sometimes they're going to be people like friends and family. If you're trying things out, like all of us have things to work on, but we're not all in a space where we can actually be vulnerable with people and say, how did that conversation land? Do I need to kind of project my voice in a different way to kind of influence or make the point during a presentation? Was there something about quality that I didn't do right in that report that I developed? And so I think it's just being a trusting environment, solicit feedback, and again, be a little bit thick-skinned, because the only way to learn is by falling over and grazing your knee a few times and getting right back up.
I'll never forget my first year at Bain. I had 11 reviews. And you come in and you're just like, I must be one of the smartest people on the planet. You feel like such a hot shot, right? And then after 11 reviews, I was pretty much like, I thought, I'm a worm. I'm a worm. That's about as good as I am right now. So that's great advice. Thank you for sharing. Great. This one's for eBay. So what do you see as key fundamental characteristics of organizations that create an inclusive environment?
Gosh. Willingness to be open. I think, for organizations, that way, I think one of the things we think about a lot, and it's sort of a consistent thread through inclusive hiring, making sure that we have a sense of belonging internally, really thinking about assuming good intent. Jenny, you and I might be in a meeting. We might have very opposite opinions or thoughts on a direction of a product or a project. That is, you're coming to the table with the knowledge. I am coming to the table with the knowledge. It has nothing to do with whether or not you like me, whether or not you like the way I speak or the way I look. I think that, a lot of what we talk about is start with assuming good intent. And then ask your questions, around an issue, a product, a feedback, ask for more, and build thick skin. Like, I think in anybody, right, feedback is a gift, even though sometimes it is hard, but that gives you something to take with you and decide, is this the place where I still want to be? Or is this something I can work with to make myself even better? Right. And then surrounding yourself with the people. So I would stick with that.
I love how your answer from an organizational perspective is similar to Bhushan's answer from a personal perspective, that an organization has to be willing to grow and develop in the same way that a staff member does. I think that's very insightful. Thanks for sharing. I also am thinking back to that first year at Bain when I really got just punched all the time with that feedback. I've never grown so much in my career. And I think organizations that are really faithful to grow like that are going to succeed in this area. Hershey, I've got one for you. So how should consultants of color approach mentorship? We've heard a lot about associates of color having difficulty finding committed mentors, having difficulty finding committed mentors.
Yeah, I think the strategy is like any other. When you think about your financial portfolio, diversification, right? So making sure that you have mentors across the board. So think about your functional group or that you come into a company, finding someone within that organization that has seniority, that has been there for some time. It can help to talk to you about just the culture and ways of working from their experience over time. But then I think diversifying to find a peer mentor as well. So someone that is on your same level where you can have safe space conversations to discuss different projects or different thought processes. And sometimes it helps to have that peer relationship. Something else that I've done personally too is leaned into this thought around just-in-time mentorship. So I think sometimes, finding consistency with mentors, like we posed in the question, having that constant touch base may be challenging. We have a lot of competing priorities from a day-to-day perspective. But if you have someone where you've created a relationship where it's like, hey, I have an immediate issue that I need some feedback on, and taking that to that person and just having the understanding that when I have that just-in-time issue or thought that I want to talk through, that you're an available resource as well. And for me, from a time-saving perspective, that's been really effective to have that person to go to with some of those just-in-time mentoring questions. So great question, though.
Thank you. I love that. Let's see here. One for Accenture. There's been a recent political or newsy backlash to DEI. How can your organization maintain a commitment to diversity recruiting and simultaneously address the criticism directed around some of these DEI initiatives?
That's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Because personally, I do think about this as well. I think the best thing I can say is that our commitment is to bring diversity into the top of the funnel when we consider candidates that are being invited to interview. We bring them at the top of the funnel. And then from there, it's simply based on candidate performance through the interview process. So we do not extend offers only to diversity-based candidates or anything like that. It's simply because at the end of the day, folks who join the organization have to be able to perform in the role. We also want them to have a successful experience once they join the organization, and not put them in a position where they're not successful, because that's not a good experience for the candidate. It's not a good experience for Accenture as well. So I think our commitment is to continue to give the opportunity at the top of the funnel, engage with candidates through all the conferences and partnerships that we have, through the student clubs that we have, educate them about who Accenture is, and then again, bring them in and then see how they perform in the interview process. Because at the end of the day, it's the performance that's going to drive that decision to receive an offer and eventually join the organization.
So it's authentic and intentional, but it's not just correcting bias with bias. I think that's what you're saying, right?
Exactly.
It's reflecting an outreach initiative that's very different than some people might paint it to.
Jenny Ray, can I just add one point to that?
Big time.
I think it's really important for the candidates who are here to say what you asked is not their issue. It might be issues of socio-political, it might be issues of business leaders, it might be issues of policymakers. But what this group can control is how they show up, because all of our clients need to change. They need to change the way they work. They need to use technology in a different way. We need to rethink everything from return to office to mental health to kind of, globalization in terms of supply chains. We need people to think differently. We need creativity. We need people that challenge. We need people that are digitally literate. And so the group here that's listening in, hopefully, can feel very confident, whatever their lived experience is, that they meet that mold, and they shouldn't worry about the politicization of ESG or DEI, not their issue. They need to kind of show up and be their best business self.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. And thank you both, Accenture and PwC, for taking a stand on that. We appreciate you. Last question for Serco. What challenges do you face in DEI hiring and retention? I think one of the things that is sometimes odd to people is that they feel like we're these great candidates. We should have a lot of opportunities, and then they feel like sometimes there are crickets on the other side. So help us identify some of those breakdowns in the process from your perspective so we can solve for this.
Yeah, and I think in particular, because we're a government contractor, we're performing work on behalf of those governments, right? And we have all of these contractual obligations of what we are doing with them. It's illegal documents, statements of work, and things of that nature, which include qualifications for the people that will be providing those services. So unlike some government contracting, like they're building rockets, Boeing builds airplanes, a lot of product involved. We're strictly services. So we're doing software development on behalf of whatever agency, right? Or being system administrators to their network, or like we're the ones that we're designing unmanned submarines for the Navy. So, it's all of these different types of skills and works that we do. So for us, it's even additionally challenging because we only have so much control of the qualifications of the people that we can hire. It's not really our decision. We can influence the government sometimes, and our customers are open sometimes to, instead of hiring someone with 10 years of experience, can we please hire somebody, 2 people coming out of college that we can train up, or, finishing their grad degree. And we've really tried to have those conversations. We see the imbalance right now of not enough very senior people for jobs and too many younger, early career people unemployed. And we see that in all of our talent acquisitions. I'm sure my peers on the panel do as well. And so we've been actively trying to shift our customers to more positions in early career type of roles, because you're there. We want to be able to hire you, and you're an excellent applicant pool for us. That just helps, that's the challenge we have, though, is convincing some Navy admiral over here, like in the DC Navy Yard, that that's a good idea, right? And we're having a lot more success with that. We actually, with the Navy, started an internship associate program with them. It's not for us, it's for the Navy. We've done 2 cohorts of folks coming through, one in the summer, and then now we had a fall version of that. And it's specifically for us to get people involved with this customer, understanding the type of work that's being done, getting them to start their clearances that they will need to go for, and then not to come work for Serco, but to now go work for the Navy when they graduate. And so, we're happy to take that work on because they're paying us to do that, to do those internships. But it's really helping them grow their candidate pools for their own positions in the future. And some of those people will probably end up Serco employees as well. Maybe they're just the type of work that they're doing. But so that's the type of influence that we're trying to have over our customers, and being able to adjust the balance of what's out there compared to the type of jobs that are available. There's definitely a mismatch.
Can you just add one more piece? Because we do have a lot of people that are here that have data analytics interest or project management interest, or they have some coding experience or no business experience. Can you just, like I asked for Hershey and for eBay, just give us a quick range of the types of roles that you're really interested in hiring for?
Oh, well, unlike a Boeing or some of the other government contracting companies that have kind of a focus in the type of work that we do, we are deliciously diverse in the type of work that we do.
Deliciously diverse. Great.
And
we should title this panel "Deliciously Diverse."
I'm kind of with Hershey on that one. We actually had to hire an external company to help us figure out our EVP, because our employee value proposition, because we're kind of all over the place in the types of work and jobs that we do, more so than any company I've worked at. And so our tagline, if you go to our career site that John has put in the chat, you will see our tagline. It's discover your place in our world, which means we have so many different types of jobs. There's probably something here that would interest you.
Great.
The thing I thought was kind of the most negative thing in our branding at Serco ended up being kind of the most positive. But it's really interesting. We're hiring air traffic controllers, Navy, nuclear propulsion engineers, software developers, DevSecOps, like IT, customer service. We operate the drive test centers in Ontario, Canada. If you go get your license, you're going to interact with Serco employees. So it's all over the place. So really, I sometimes hear of new positions, and I'm like, of course, we'll certainly go hire for that. So it makes John and my job very interesting. Nothing's different every day. But really, it's a whole lot of different types of roles. And we'd love you to check it out and see if there's anything of interest for you.
Thank you. Well, at this point, I'll move to our final wrap-up question. We'll give each of the panelists a minute just to say something that hasn't been said. Any final message that you'd like to share with the audience today about something that you haven't shared about DEI that's important to you, and or ways that they can get involved with your organization. So I'll go in the reverse order that we started, which means that Serco, Amy, I'll have you go first.
I'm back up. I know we've talked quite a bit about networking, and I would just kind of pound that drum a little bit harder. I will give a quick example of much earlier in my career, I was looking for a position. I gave my resume to my old former manager, who gave it to a colleague, who sent it to a group of HR people in a professional organization that he was in, who worked with the person that hired me. That's how my resume traveled, and I got a job out of the blue I hadn't even applied for. So please send your resume to everyone, network with everyone, social media, all of those associations, groups. Just get it yourself out there. And I know that sounds like a lot of work, and sometimes it is a little bit of work. But the harder you kind of do that, then the more opportunities will really present themselves. I know John's going to put a couple links into the chat, but, really look at those. Like, we have employee resource groups too for different areas of diversity. Look at the population of people when you go in for an interview. Do they look happy? Do they look stressed? Like, try to really kind of get those vibes, talk to people, connect with them on LinkedIn for a company you're looking to go to work at potentially. You can really learn a lot about not just the company and what it does, but there's places like Glassdoor and things like that. Take that with a grain of salt, because sometimes people may be just unhappy with the company that they work for. It may just be a little disgruntled. But you can get a general idea of the sentiment and, using those types of resources. And does that company really embrace diversity in the messaging they're putting out there? And are they proving that with the different resources and activities and things that are going on at that company? Every company has a personality. I know Serco is not the right place for everyone. I know my team is not the right place for every recruiter. And that's okay. And that's why we have a lot of different places to work, and we have a lot of opportunities and choices to find the right job that's for us.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Bhushan.
Pick a few companies only or industries, and be really, really prepared around that. Really be a student of their business model. Really pick a few areas that impact that company, whether it's geopolitics and reshoring their supply chains, whether it's the chips and where they're going to get that from and the regulation, whether it's kind of the overall economy and interest rates and how they impact, say, financial institutions or car manufacturers. And whether you like it or not, things like AI and decarbonization are not going away. And there's a ton of one-on-one resources out there. Every one of your jobs that you're going to go to, you're going to have to demonstrate. You'll differentiate yourself if you talk about the economy, geopolitics, emerging technology like AI, and also things like decarbonization and how they impact that business, whether it's my business, the businesses that we serve, or kind of other businesses represented here and elsewhere. But I can't underemphasize how much that is not done, whether it's MBA students, whether it's undergrads, whether it's experienced hires. People don't kind of invest that time, and it really shows when people do.
Bhushan, the first drinks on me in New York. We'll see if we can crack that code. How do we get the people that are coming in through the door to actually prepare properly for that? Thanks again for joining. Your perspective is really valuable. Namble, Hershey.
Yeah, I would say really get comfortable with your authentic self and knowing your superpowers. We have lofty goals to achieve as a business, and we want strong leaders with diverse perspectives. And so understanding that, what you're great at, what your superpowers are, and how that can help us achieve those goals is what I would focus on from a personal perspective. I'd also encourage you all to take a look to understand, again, does that company's values align with your personal values? And so my colleague Vivek will drop in the chat a link to our ESG report. And that really gives you an insight into the policies we have in place, the programs that we've executed. You can learn more about our history and values and find, what stands out to you to really make that informed decision as you go through the application process. We'll also have our link to our DEI initiatives and that Pathways project that I referenced earlier. But again, get comfortable with your superpowers and bring your authentic self, because we're looking for you.
Thank you, Namble. I was in Alaska 2 weeks ago, and a woman walked through the airport with a bag of Reese's popcorn. And I just thought, could there be a better marriage in the world between salty and sweet? So yeah, if I'm in Pennsylvania and you're around, I would love to meet with you as well. Thanks again for joining today. Really, really wonderful perspective. Cindy.
Yes to everything that my peers have said to date. I think what I would add is there may be opportunities out there, multiple opportunities that each of you are interested in. When you've committed to one, commit to it, because all of us talk. Everybody that is in the talent space, the emerging talent space, like, we know somebody. And quite honestly, when students begin to hoard offers, first of all, you're taking an opportunity for somebody else that may also be interested in that. But secondly, there's lots of questions around integrity, right? If you're 1 to 2 companies, 3 maybe, that you're interested in, go after them, bring your best self, do some research, and nail the interview. And then once you get that offer, be confident when you're accepting the offer. I think, as we see the market shift a little bit, we're seeing an increased number, at least at eBay as well, as renegs year to year. And so that news travels really fast within the recruiting sphere. And the last thing you want to do is diminish all the hard work that you've done to get to where you're at. So I would just keep that in mind from the employer's point of view.
Great. Thank you so much, Cindy, and thank you for joining. One of my colleagues today said, do your kids even go to school? So I know as a mom of 2, you might be going through that process in the next 10 days, might have early releases and a week off and all the things. So thanks for sharing your mom side with us today as well. Finally, and last but not least, Miriam, Accenture.
Yeah, I really feel that my colleagues here have really covered all the things that I wanted to mention. Just staying authentic to who you are, your ability, your priorities, what kind of experience do you want to have in this, next position that you have post MBA, post graduate school. Think about that. Do some research. Get to know people from the company as we approach, interviews. The other thing I wanted to mention is I've seen a few questions pop up in the chat about non-MBA candidates who are interested in other master's degrees, PhD. I'm going to have my colleague Garbila, who is with me here from Accenture, post the links to other advanced degree roles that we have open at Accenture. We do consider master's and PhD candidates for a role. The application deadline is this Friday, so as quickly as possible, if you're interested, please apply. The MBA internship role is that the deadline is coming up December 1st. So just kind of staying on top of some of those roles that we have open. And again, if you need help, getting to know folks from our side, from Accenture, feel free to reach out. But yeah, wishing you the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Miriam. Thank you all the panelists for joining us today. It was really a powerful conversation. Just a last note from Management Consulted, we do have a cohort for job seekers that kicks off on Saturday. It closes tomorrow. We also have another panel coming up for women in consulting. So just to continue to advance this DEI conversation, specifically around women, on December 6th. Same time, same bat channel, just a different date and different topic. So please consider registering for that. As always, all of our panels are free, both for employers to attend and for attendees to join. So we really appreciate everyone who came today to share their perspective. Thank you to all of you who submitted questions. They were valuable and insightful. We really appreciate you. And thanks everyone for a great conversation. Panelists, it was an honor to be with you today. Bye, everyone.